Aim, Duke, how are you guys doing today? Amy, you're laughing a little bit too much for my liking, but how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I always laugh. I
You always
always
laugh?
laugh. Yes.
Is there a time when you don't laugh?
Yes, there are definitely times that I don't laugh. I do have a very serious side, but I like laugh. Laughter is good for the soul.
Right. Duke, your thoughts? Does anyone remember laughter? Where's that from? Duke, I want you to answer the question. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I remember laughter.
Where's that from?
Zed Leplin.
Oh, I love it. Good boy. So how you guys doing, though? How's everything going? You know, Amy, I know you're teaching the kids, and Duke,
Yeah.
you and I are stuck at home, or I shouldn't say stuck at home, but we're at home. A little bit unusual. All three of us would be normally at this time playing out and gearing up for Memorial Day weekend and so forth.
Yeah.
So how does it feel? To me, it feels like playing is like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, it feels the same to me. I have to tell you, I miss it terribly. I really do. I mean, I know that this is where I need to be right now, and I know that being home with my three children is where I need to be so I can educate them during this time. However, I really do miss playing. I miss singing a lot.
Duke, how you feeling about this situation?
Well, I like it because I'm working towards next summer so that when I play next summer, I sound real good.
There you go.
Oh, Duke, I mean, he sounded good last summer. I've heard Dirk, oh boy, Duke play before. Don't worry, my wife always calls me someone else too, so it doesn't matter. I got used to that. But you always sounded great, and I know Duke doesn't want to hear about it, but I've always said you're a very, very good drummer. And you know something? The fact that you work so much alone, even if I was deaf, I'd have to say you're good because you're always playing different bands.
That's right.
Duke doesn't want to say anything. He's very humble. Folks, he's humble. Let me tell you, he's very humble.
He's very humble.
So let me ask you both a question. What do you notice about my setup today?
Amy?
I noticed that you are wearing a sports jersey today.
And Duke, this is?
That is the Danbury Hat Tricks.
Oh boy, there you go. So Amy, why am I wearing a hockey jersey? The ice is closed.
Yep, the ice is closed. However, we do have coming on our show, pro athlete Mariah Toussaint. She's training for the Olympics, and she has competed in numerous meets across the United States. She's also competed in beauty pageants. She's just a plethora of just competitiveness. That
Duke,
is what she is.
Duke, let me ask you, can you imagine, before we bring this young lady on, from everything I've heard and seen about her, she is you know, she's so impressive. Can you imagine competing at that level in anything?
I like to imagine competing at that level. Yes. But she's impressive. She's impressive. And I'm really excited to talk to her because to be able to compete on a global level is something that, if you think about how many people compete every 4 years on a global level, percentage-wise, it's ridiculously small.
Yes.
Ridiculously small. So, you know, the fact that she's able to do this is kind of mind-blowing, you know?
And Amy, let me ask you, Mariah is how old?
She's 27 years old. And just to be more specific, she is in track and field competition. So she's doing it all individually. She's not, I mean, she's part of a team. However, she is so self-motivated. So I think that I'm really looking forward to hearing what she has to say today.
So this is a young lady who's competing at the Olympic level. She's competed in a beauty pageant. I'm going to take a very good guess that she is involved heavily in training, in physique, in physical training and so forth. Does that pretty much sum it up?
I would say so. That sounds about accurate for Mariah. Yes.
And I agree with Duke. I think Duke makes a really good point because we know that even through the major leagues, what a small percentage that is. And Duke is right. This percentage is even smaller. And there's sometimes a less, if you will, chance of reoccurrence. People might make one Olympics, maybe two, but I don't think that most, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I would venture to guess that because they're spaced out, many of them are not making most Olympics, and some of them in a row, I should say, and some of them may do it one time. And to build up I mean, Duke, I guess it would almost be like getting ready for one monster gig at the Garden that's going to take place 4 years from now.
Yeah, right. That's very true. So she's a long jumper. So I have a question for you guys. Who amongst the three of us do you think could jump the furthest?
Ooh.
And we have to resolve it and try it somewhere.
Well, is it with or without the trampoline?
Okay, so I am pretty athletic myself. So I would say if I have a real sprinting start, I could probably jump pretty far. I mean, nothing like an Olympian. I could probably do about 12 feet.
I have no idea how far I could go, but of the three of us, I know there's a track right here in town that we can go to and try it.
If I jumped off a 100-foot bridge, does that count or that doesn't count?
Let's not even talk about that.
I just had to ask. I mean,
so what do you think, Ken? Would you give the nod to Amy? Think she's going to jump the furthest?
I think so, because you know why? Amy, number one, is a runner, and number two, I think Amy's more. My Achilles heel is I'm not that flexible. I should be more than I am, and I'm going to take a guess, Amy. You're very flexible. So
I am.
if you can run and you're very flexible, I got to give her the shot because Amy, correct me if I'm wrong. I think when they jump, I think there's some substantial extension of your limbs.
Absolutely.
to get to the outermost. It's not just simply running and just jumping the way we may jump in the street. So I think there's so many things at play. I would give the nod to Amy, but if I gave Duke a good push, I'd go put my money on Duke.
Just don't knock him over, okay?
Right. If I lit Duke's feet on fire, say that 3 times fast, and pushed him, I would give Duke the nod.
All right. So we have to try it.
Absolutely.
When's the competition? Game
Absolutely.
on.
Well, I think let's try it. Yeah, let's try it. So listen, Aim, Duke, let's bring this young lady on and let's welcome Mariah Toussaint.
All right. So today on the Upbeat Hang, we have Mariah Toussaint.
Woohoo!
Yeah, everybody, let's welcome her.
Hey, Mariah.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Thank you for joining us.
Of course, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
So Mariah is like a plethora of everything that you can imagine in a woman. She is an amazing athlete. She is a trainer. She is a beauty pageant runner-up. She's got it all going on.
You know, it makes me wonder, how do you have time to sleep?
That's a good question.
I mean, you kind of just have to space things out and do everything that you can in that day. You know, Wonder Woman.
Have you always been driven?
Yeah, I feel like people always say that I seem like a very determined person. I feel like because I'm, horoscope Scorpio, when I get something done, I like to get it done.
Mariah, let me ask you, were you scheduled, I assume you were scheduled to be in Tokyo this summer, correct?
Yes.
When did you find out that you weren't going, and what were your thoughts when you found out?
I follow a lot of other athletes like track and field, basketball, etc. So we're all kind of like in limbo, I guess, because we were trying to figure out, are they still going to hold them? What's going on with the whole quarantine, the coronavirus, etc. So when I found out, I think it was, if I can recall, in the middle of March, kind of like the second week of the coronavirus hitting. And I just remember being like, because they were like, okay, we're going to postpone it. So we'll probably do it maybe in like October. So then you're thinking about all the things that you're thinking about in October and how you have to still train through it. But obviously there's no facilities. So when they finally announced that it was going to move to 2021, you feel like a sense of disappointment because you trained so hard for the entire year for something that you're waiting for. But then you're also like, okay, so now I get another year to kind of train and then get myself ready for 2021. So it's not like it was like completely canceled, which would have sucked, but at least it's another chance to do something later on in the next year.
Let me ask you about the, when you train, I assume when you train, it's in a cycle, almost like, if you will, like a bodybuilder where they build up to the competition and they can't train at that level for 12 months. Is that in the same, and I guess for our viewers, we should say, what type of events do you do for the Olympics?
Okay, so for me, I'm working on long jump. So if you guys have ever seen where it's the long runway and then you see running at full speed and then they hit a board and they literally just jump for as far as they can. So that's my whole thing. You run up to the board, stay on the board, you jump into the sand, and your whole goal is to get as far as you can with your body. Right?
What's your PR?
And for me, my PR in meters is going to be 6.43 meters. And in feet, I believe that's 20 feet, 11 inches. So
You know that's out of control.
Yeah,
That's-
right.
It's so out of control.
Feet doesn't seem that much when you're doing it. And then you measure it out and you're like, I can jump this far. It's really awesome.
So Mariah, when you were talking, just a second, just go back to what we were talking about. When you're talking about your training, do you train in cycles or a schedule where if there's like an interruption, it's going to be hard to get back? In other words, you go in cycles, like we know that with some of the professional sports, if you change the time of season they train. For example, if you go into baseball players are not typically training into November, December for the next season. They wait. How does that impact you and what you do in your activity for the Olympics?
So in track and field, kind of like you said, with various sports, we have different ways that we do it. So track and field, we have indoor and outdoor season. So mostly our indoor season is from about December to like March. So we were really in our indoor season when this hit. And then our outdoor season is from usually March. And because it's an Olympic year, it goes a little bit longer. So you're thinking March to about August. So for us, depending on what years are going on, World Championships, outdoor, Olympics, et cetera, depend how long or short your outdoor season is. So for us, we were going to go from March all the way until August. But now, since this is interrupted, what coaches have decided to do is to kind of lay back a little bit on your training and focus more on a preseason. So to give you kind of a track and field way, what we would do is preseason would be when you're finishing in that summer from July to maybe like October, November. Then you would pick up back up and go into indoor training from December into March, where you train and you'd go to meets, track meets, and then you take a little break, and then you go into your outdoor training, and then you start back again with a preseason. So it's kind of just like a whole yearly, I'm on, I'm off, I'm doing this, I'm doing that kind of thing.
So what does being off mean to you?
Really, it's kind of like it's funny because, you know, when Amy mentioned about being in personal training and fitness instruction, kind of the same idea. You're never really off. So you're technically in phases, like with other sports. You have the harder seasons where you're competing, and then your off seasons is where you're still doing kind of recovery stuff. So you're not maybe working out 5 to 6 times a week. Maybe you're only working out 3 to 4 times a week. You're focusing more on swimming, on biking, things that are more of like the lower recovery workouts, besides doing stuff where like heavy lifting or sprinting, you're focusing more on the lighter things. So you're never really off. So,
yeah. I can't imagine you taking off for more than 2 days in a row.
Yeah. And even with this one, our coach sends us plans, and I've been working more on a lot of at home workouts. So you're still trying to do the exact same things, but obviously with different movements. So instead of us going in and doing cleans or jerks or squats, you're doing it with like a kettlebell, or you're running outside from grass to grass just to make sure you can get the same type of movements in, and you're not just staying static and not doing anything at all. So that's
Sure.
what.
Right. So at what age did you realize that this was something that you wanted to do?
Well, I started track and field pretty late in the game. So I started when I was 18, and now I'm 27. So I haven't been doing it as long. You know, most people, when they are really into it, they've been starting since like little kids who are 3 years old. And I think for me, I realized that I really wanted to go pro, and I wanted to go to Olympics when I was about 22. So I wasn't really focused on it between 18 and 22. Once I got to 22 years old, I saw that I wanted to go to 2016 Olympics. And that was literally right after my senior year of college. I was just all over the place, you could imagine, 22 years old. So I didn't make it then, but I felt like I had a chance now. I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I've been training a little bit better. So like you had said before, when it was kind of canceled, it hurt a bit. But now knowing that the next time when it comes up next year, I'll be 28, I feel like I have a lot more experience, and I'll be ready to go for that then.
Excellent.
Now, Mariah, when you do the long jump, is that something that you, I mean, do you essentially choose the events you do a lot of times, and do a lot of the performers do that? Is it something they fall into, or where there's a need? And what happened with you? Did you try everything, like the javelin, the shot put? Did you try all that?
So when I started, I actually was a mid-distance runner. I don't know how much you guys know about track, But
Duke and I drive a car mean. You can't believe it.
yeah. So I used to do like an 800 meters. So if you would think about a typical track, that's 2 laps around. So that was what I started with. And I thought that that was something I loved to do. Long distance was my thing. And then I went to college and I switched over to jumping, which is long jump, the one that I do normally. And I did high jump, which you guys have seen. It's with the bar and you're jumping over like that, backwards. So between those two, I realized that I liked them a lot and I was really good at it. So it made me like it even more.
Sure.
You're good at, you like a lot more. You've seen in other sports too. It just comes to you naturally. So I feel like once I started doing those and I realized that maybe I'm a little bit better at jumping than I am at running for long distances, that's when I kind of fell more into it and learned to love it. And then I did a bit more research. But yeah, I basically tried everything. Javelin, jumping, I tried throwing. I'm a little small, so it wasn't for me, but it was fun to try. Lots
So
of
how high can you jump?
high jump, I can jump 5'10".
Wow.
Not bad. Yeah, I'm 5'7".
Whew.
Not too bad. The ones that jumping like 6'3", 6'4", so I was like, yeah, maybe not for me.
That's unbelievable, though.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You're going to be representing Dominica in the
Yes.
Olympics. Tell us about how that happened.
So my dad, he moved to the U.S. when he was, I think, 13 or 14 years old, from Dominica over to here. And he's been here ever since. He's lived in Jersey his whole life. He's actually in Virginia now. But like I said, when I turned 21, I thought about either competing for US or Dominica. And for me, it was like a easier decision because I really love my dad. And I feel like not a lot of people know about Dominica, not really at all. It's a very small island in the Caribbean. So I thought to myself, you know, if I'm able to go out there and represent for something that's so small and bring kind of that glory, that really nice feeling that people get from US Olympians and winning a gold medal, or even if you don't win, just being able to say that you represented for your country, that was something that I've always wanted to do. So during my senior year, I had to go to Dominica. I've been there many a times, but I had to go there, talk to their Olympic team, show that I'm actually, like, my blood is Dominican, so you really have to prove that you are or not. And then I got my citizenship there, and I have a dual citizenship for US and Dominica. And actually, speaking of that, every Olympic year, or every year in general, you declare what country you want to represent. So even if, like, next year I decided that I want to represent for US, I would have to do that the entire year. So if I decided to do Dominica, I would have to do that the entire year. Like, you're allowed to do national meets within US, but international, you'd always have to represent what you declare that year. That makes sense.
Sure.
Mariah, let me ask you this much. You know the way everything's going with COVID-19 and things are going to change and so forth. From your point of view, would you have a problem if they decide we're going forward, but there's going to be no spectators? How would that affect your performance? Do you think it, if you think it would, how do you feel about that?
I feel like sports in general thrive off of fans. Like, I've been to like many different sports arenas, football, basketball, lacrosse, hockey, and the fans are literally what drives the players to do what they do. Like, it's fun, obviously, to compete and to enjoy, but when you're looking around and you see people being like, go, blah, blah, whatever, and get them, you're just like, bro, I am going to get them. You're right. So for me, it's upsetting, but obviously I know that it's a safe method for athletes to compete and to not have people out there being exposed. But it just kind of sucks to think that even as an athlete, when you're out there, seeing people cheering for you, seeing the stands full of people that want to see you do well is something that always motivates you to go a little bit harder than what you're. And I feel like when you're thinking about the difference between fans and no fans, it's thinking about like a practice and then no practice. Like, what adds that kind of extra oomph is that there are people there that are watching to make you go a little bit further than you normally do. Like, practicing. Now you're in front of millions, billions of people sometimes if you're watching on TV, and you really get to show what you can do.
Sure.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So do you feel like you get energy off of that?
Yes, definitely. I'm a very competitive person. So when somebody's like, you can definitely do this, I'm like, yeah, I can. Here we go.
I like that.
Yeah,
Positive energy, motivation.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you said your father is from Dominica. Is that how we pronounce this? And your
Yeah.
mother is from?
My mom's actually Native American, so she's originally from Oklahoma. So not
Okay.
even, they're like two of the opposites.
And
Foreign, natural.
where were you raised?
I was born in Oklahoma, and then I moved to Virginia, and now I reside in our favorite Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So you have fellow long jumpers that you hang with, I'm sure. Do you know the long jumpers on the U.S. team? Are you tight with them?
Yeah, I know a couple of them actually. And for them, it's really interesting because we're kind of just all over the place. Some of them are in Florida, some of them in like Oregon. I know a couple of really good ones. There's one, the Olympic gold medalist. I know Brittany Reese and Tiana Bartoletta. Obviously, I'm a little bit more closer with the women than I am with the men. But yeah, so we're all really close. We follow each other on social medias. We talk all the time. I ask them for advice. Sometimes they'll comment on things that I do. So it's kind of interesting to see how they used to be people that you look up to, and now you're kind of competing with them and trying to go for the same kind of goals that they are. So it's kind of enlightening at a point. It's really cool.
Nice. Mariah, kind of switching gears, you talked about dual citizenship and two sides of things. Mm-hmm. Besides an athlete, you do compete in a different area.
Yes.
And have competed in pageants. Why don't you tell us about that? And if you can explain to the viewers, what's the difference in the way you prepare and compete in doing your dual careers?
Okay. So with the pageant, kind of a backtrack, my mom, like Amy said, she's from Oklahoma. Anybody that knows Oklahomans, they're Southern belles. They love all the pageantry, the big, floof and everything that's fun with that. It's a lot of fun. So
the big floof? Is that what you said? The big floof?
I like the fluff. I didn't really know how to explain it. Like the fluff, as the fun, the nice.
That's right. I'm all about the floof. It's cool. I'm all about the floof.
So at one point, I was literally just on Instagram, and an ad popped up talking about maybe you can become Miss New Jersey, USA. So I was like, this is interesting. So I clicked on it, read a little bit more info. I reached out to my mom, the first person I talked to. And I was just like, Mom, what do you think about this? And you know how moms are. You can go for it, honey. I think you should try it. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try it. So I apply, go through all the everything you have to do, interviews, talking to several people, and then I get in. So I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't think about this step. Right? You're going to do it that next step. So then I realized, you can't, it's just like with any kind of competition. You can't do it by yourself. Sorry. You need somebody that can kind of coach you. So I reached out to several people. A lot of people gave me suggestions. I kind of put it out there that I was going to be doing this. And I found a coach named Jillian Spano. And she kind of was my saving grace besides a lot of other people that helped me. She kind of showed me what it was to be able to prepare for this pageant. So mind you, I applied for the pageant at the end of August, started preparing probably in the middle of September, and the pageant itself was in November. So this is not a lot of preparation here, very, very quickly. So she told me that a lot of the times when I first started off, and mind you, I'm an athlete, so I'm always in sneakers or jeans. Even now, this is my go-to outfit, a shirt and some pants. So we went for the first day, we tried on 6-inch heels, mind you, so super high. I'm in walking around looking like a baby giraffe, and she's really like, you look great. I'm like, I look good. That was day one. I was very discouraged. I was really nervous. I had no idea. And I do love to wear dresses and things, but I will say that I'm more so on the tomboy side. So getting to be able to have to wear a swimsuit in front of people, having to wear an evening gown in front of people, having to wear like a opening dress, do an opening dance. This was all something that was new for me. So the preparation for this one was honestly just as hard to me as it would be with track, because not only do you have to keep your body up, like you have to look, very nice. You got to make sure that you're not, falling all over the place. It's something that's not only about your looks, but it's also about your mind. So I feel like with that one, with the pageant, that was something that was newer for me too. Being that you guys are interviewing me now, same idea that you had to do in the pageant, but you only had, I think, about 3 minutes to go through and do an entire set of basically who you are. So they can ask you any number of questions, and you kind of had to be comfortable within yourself to be able to answer it and showcase that this is exactly who I am. You know?
Oh, we lost you.
A little dark out there.
It's getting dark in the room.
A little dark.
That's better.
So as you were saying, it sounds like you're saying that the competitive, the mental aspect is somewhat similar. What between your dual careers is totally diametrically opposed, is totally opposite?
I guess the difference would be kind of the competitiveness would be a little bit different. Pageantry is still competitive, but I found more so that in the pageants, sometimes a lot of the girls were just for themselves. I don't know if that even makes sense. While in athleticism, you know, in track, that's all I can really talk about for. A lot of the girls are still kind of trying to help you out. So at the pageant that I was at, it was distinguished between, like, you know, you got top 20, top 5, blah, blah, blah. The ones that I saw that got to the top 5, like for myself, I got into that first tier and then somebody else got after that. Sorry, I move this a little bit. And the ones that were in the top 5, they weren't very friendly women. So I felt like for them, competition was all about, this is what I know I want to get, and I'm not letting anybody stand in my way. And that's obviously a same idea for track, but a lot of times you'll still see that people are still kind of able to help you out because they know what it is. I don't know. That's what I kind of felt was a little bit different. That's the USA one, though. I know there's also America competition with the pageantry and different ones. So maybe it was just because USA for New Jersey is so big. Like there was literally 100 and something girls. So maybe that's why it was so crazy.
Very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive.
Was there any sort of talent in this pageant that you were in? No,
there was no sort of talent, which was kind of disappointing, honestly, because I watched America, the New Jersey one, on TV. And it was really cool to see women kind of showcasing who they are in general. But it was mostly just interview and then your looks. So that's the only thing I didn't like about it, because I feel like in the athletic competitions, it's literally what you've worked on and it's hard for you and you've had to endure so much to get there. And obviously you still have worked on a lot of things with keeping your body nice and making sure you understand who you are with the pageant. But that's like the big difference between the two. Like the other one, it's competitive. It's on what I've worked hard on. This one, it's still something that I've worked hard on, but not so much with showcasing any particular skill, if that makes sense.
So, yeah, it does.
I have two things I wanted to ask you. Because the light is above your head, it's shining into the screen. Can you move? Go this way. That's great. That's great. Awesome.
There we go.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. And the other thing is, as you were talking, I realized the beauty pageant contestants. So is that the appropriate term, beauty pageant? I don't want to. I don't want to be.
That's what they refer to me to. So,
but they can't have a personal best. Mm-hmm. Where in athletics, I could see why people would be more, because even if you beat them or they beat you, if they do their personal best, it's still a victory for them.
Matter. Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, you're like, well, even if you beat me, I still beat myself. So then that's the best part. That's true. I didn't think about that. Like in the, obviously in the pageant world, there's only one can be at the top.
Right.
So that's exactly a good point. Perfect.
See, I didn't have to worry about that. I won every pageant I was in. So.
Well, Mariah, you haven't seen Duke in a bikini, so you don't know what you're missing.
You don't know what you're missing. Trust me, you don't know.
Pageant, so I would love to see that.
We'll get you tickets.
I would love to see Ken try 6-inch heels.
Oh,
believe me, you'd be shocked what I could do with that. That's on a separate podcast.
So, Mariah, if you entered a pageant that did have a talent, what would your talent be?
Well, I do dabble a little bit in singing. I wouldn't say I'm like so I would probably
lay some on us.
I know, Amy. I had to throw that in there. I'm like, I'm not a professional. I like to sing. I like to read and write poetry. So maybe I would do something in that regards. Maybe give a little poetry that I've done before, sing a little something. I could bring a pit out there and show them how I run and jump. That'd be easy.
There you go. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Mariah, let me ask you a question. I was a sports journalist at one point, and I remember something that a professional baseball player who told me that was really interesting. He had roomed with someone, without mentioning names, he had roomed with someone who had made it to the major leagues. He played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he had told me, I remember discussing the mental aspect of when you're a professional like yourself getting to the Olympics. And he said, when you get to a very high level, like where you're competing against, he said, the difference sometimes physically is marginal, but the difference mentally is big. And I remember him saying, for example, if you're a closer, he said, there are guys who are better in the minor leagues than the major leagues. The difference is the guys in the major leagues can go out and give up 10 runs, get shelled, completely forget about it, and the guy who maybe gives up a couple hits is rattled and can't get over it. So can you talk about at your level, what do you need to do, or where do you need to go to get to that mental aspect to be able to compete at that level?
So that's a great point, actually, because I feel like that does separate those that are elite from the ones who are going to be the great. Even if you read like some bios from other athletes, like you said, baseball, basketball, etc., the big key point for them is always about working on your mental health. So I feel like for me, a lot of times I've reached out to a lot of sports psychologists. They're actually fantastic because, as many of us know, doesn't matter if you're in a pageant or if you're doing sports, that level of just competitiveness and trying to better yourself can sometimes eat away. So like you said, sometimes you'll do several, for me, jumps and you just feel like you're trash. And then once you keep thinking that, how are you going to get out of that mental space? So a lot of times I've worked with a lot of different sports psychologists, and what they've told you is to kind of consider every single thing that you do with what it is at that moment. So I've done 10 bad jumps. Okay, that's just that day. Next day I can go through and work on what do I need to fix at that time. So maybe I need to keep my chest up. So that next time I'm going to work on keeping my chest up. But they always are telling me that what you need to do is not lay in that same negative energy for the entire practice or the entire setting or the entire competition. I had that mistake when I went to Australia for Commonwealth Games, and I was having so much fun that I kind of realized I need to practice. So when we got to competition, I didn't do well. And I was down for maybe about 5 or 6 days, just really depressed and not really feeling like, I did a great job. But then my coach talked to me and he said that, Mariah, there's only going to be one competition out of so many. So, you have a point where you have to just realize that sometimes you have to be a little bit tougher than what you're going through. And it might seem like something is the end of the world right now, but there's always something to look forward to later on. So trying to stay a little bit more positive, like I said, seeking out people that are professionals, sports psychologists in general, they can kind of guide you into learning how to be competitive in your sport and making it so that you can get to that next level.
Now, have you studied the psyches? And there was just a great special about Michael Jordan, but going to Kobe Bryant, who's legendary in that area, of the Mamba, the Black Mamba. Have you studied any of those types of personalities and how they dealt with stuff?
I haven't really. I kind of got into a little bit with MJ, Michael Jordan, because I'm a big fan of his. Not so much Kobe, but I did read a little bit since he passed away, a little bit of the Mamba Mentality. And a lot of times I agree, like I said, for him, he was just always saying that, you have to kind of give it more than what you want to. And I remember reading something about him saying that he would go and eat and then he would go practice and then he would go eat again and he would practice the same things over and over and over again. And just like that saying goes, where it literally takes, I don't even know what it is, 52,000 blah, 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 blah to become an expert, hours or something like that. I don't know if you can give it something like that. I just feel like that is true. Especially like with me, I feel like I told you guys, I started at 18. So I don't have as many years or as much experience as those that have been doing it since 2 years old. So when it comes to that one, I think the Mamba mentality is just thinking that you need to overdo what you're trying to get at. If you want to be great, you have to really work hard and consider yourself to be that great person. Like not just only working out when you want to, but working out all the time because the results are going to get there.
Mm.
What I found fascinating was Kobe talked about, which I thought was interesting, getting into his psyche. If we could diverge this for a second, guys. What I thought was very interesting was he talked about a friend who wanted to play him one-on-one in basketball. There's nobody around. No one would see him. And Kobe talks about how he would approach just even a one-on-one game. And he said, I was determined to not let this friend even get a shot towards the basket. I
Yeah.
was not going to let him get around me. And when he talks about what it takes, and Michael Jordan kind of echoed that in his special, in the special was just came out last week. He talks again about that, and they appeared to be prepared to do whatever had to be done, whether they had enemies on their team, whether people liked them, whether people revered them. They didn't seem to care. So I was just curious how that factored into, and particularly the Olympics, where you don't have constant feedback. You're building up to, as opposed to a baseball season where I have 162 chances to prove myself, you've got a week.
Yeah.
Yep. Big difference.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Are you asking me to answer about?
Yeah, I'm just curious. What are your thoughts? Talk about that. Like what, because you read so much about this, and I'm sure the Olympics, from what I've read, a lot of the training is by yourself. There's a lot more, you're more solo than you would, for example, there are no training camps, there are no drafts, there are no OTAs and so forth and so on. You're out there, like if you read about the figure skaters, for example, figure skaters live a whole life away from the entire team, and then when they get together, it just seems like from participating in the traditional athletics as I have, I'm nowhere near your level, certainly. It just seems like your mentality and your psyche must be very, very different than if you were in the WNBA, for example.
Yes. And I agree with you. I believe that track and field, a lot of people think about it, but it is an individualized sport, unless obviously you're in a relay. So when you're thinking about that, like you said, when you're doing things that where I'm on the runway, it's just me. So everything that happens or doesn't happen in that moment relies on me. So I think for us, it makes it a little bit easier that because it's so individualized, whatever I'm doing, whether it's eating right or practicing or working out, I have to think that whatever results I do or whatever results I get is all in the work that I put in right now. So when it comes to like basketball teams and football teams, like you said, sometimes you can be on a team and the team kind of carries you. But when it comes to our sport or long jump, I have to carry myself. So I know that if one day I decide that I'm going to skip, or 1 week I decide that I'm going to skip practice 3 times, and then I come through and go for a competition and I suck, and I'm like, well, remember that time when you skipped practice 3 times through? You know, so I agree with you on that one. When it comes to basketball and everything, it's great because you can see guys that are just a little bit better that can kind of bring the team together. But with us, there's nobody else there. It's literally just you. So it always makes it a little bit more of a challenge and a competition to be like, okay, I did this today, but now I have to do this, because not only am I going to have to compete against all these other people, but really I have to compete against myself. Yes. So I think hard one too. Yeah. So that's what makes it a little bit more challenging, but also sometimes a little bit more fun, because all of the effort, all of the drive, all of the success literally goes to what you have done. So there's nobody else to take it from you. Obviously your coaches are there to guide you, but whatever I put in is what I'm going to get out. So I do like.
How often do you deal with your coaches? Because there's so much that you do without them.
Yes.
Clearly.
So, let me think. Well, if we would kind of go through a typical day before this quarantine, I would be, and not really thinking so much about work, but I would go through and, you know, because technically you think about everything that makes up an athlete between eating, working out, etc. So you'd wake up, you'd eat a healthy breakfast. And for me, I would like go to work, come back. I'd probably do a lift in the morning, which I wouldn't do without I would do without my coach. So the coach would send you something and then you would have to do it. So same thing we talked about, where it's your focus and your energy that has to get through that lift. Your coach isn't even there. So that's all you going a little bit heavier, going a little bit harder. From there, you go through and eat something else, then you go to work. Then you might meet with your coach, depending on if they're there or not. And if they are there, they can help you out a little bit. If not, you got to go through the same exact practice on your own. So like you said, it's really a lot of you trying to train yourself to do things. And like you guys said earlier, determination is what keeps you through, and having some sort of schedule. I think that's what works for athletes, when you know exactly what you're going to be doing throughout the day. Like at 6 a.m., I'm going to be eating, then I'm going to lift it here, then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to practice. And once you're able to get through those things, it kind of keeps you on track, so that you know when you do compete, everything's going to be good. You did everything you had to do, and it should relay out to the results that you want.
It takes a lot of discipline to really do that.
Yeah, a lot.
Right. That's incredible.
It's great though. Wouldn't
So now
change.
you have a family. Obviously, you have siblings.
I do. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters.
Are they athletes as well?
So it's interesting. I'm the only one that's kind of like in the pro, kind of trying to get myself out there status. My older brother did track as well when he was in high school, and he was pretty good, but then he kind of just fell off, and now he doesn't really work out at all. And there's me. I'm number 2. My sister, she's never been an athlete. She tried it once. It wasn't her thing. My brother underneath that, he's very athletic, but he just never really went into another realm. And then my second youngest brother, he's tall and slim like myself, so I really wanted him to be a jumper, but that didn't happen. And my younger sister doesn't work out either. So not really.
Wow, you're a family that with a lot of differences. That's incredible.
They're all over. But, I would credit myself being very athletic from my dad, because he was very good at various sports, basketball, soccer, football. He even played a little bit of like lacrosse and cricket. If you guys kind of know, a little bit similar, a little bit different. So that's where I usually get a lot of my athleticism from.
So with the delay of the Olympics, how does that affect you financially? Do you now need that much more fundraising to like
get it out,
accomplish your goals?
For the Olympics, we weren't really going to start doing the fundraising until maybe about May-ish, I guess. So it wasn't really there yet, if that kind of makes sense. Okay. So it was going to be like a fundraising from like May until the Olympics started, like the end of July, beginning of August. So It hasn't really derailed in that factor yet. And for me, unlike a lot of other athletes, I still work as well too. So I'm able to pay for gyms, pay for food and stuff that I need while also still be able to work out. So a lot of athletes, it's on the opposite end. So I can answer for some of them that because that's happened, I know a lot of them have had to push to get a little bit more money. Because a lot of times, depending on what contract you get, they were going to give you a contract for that Olympic year because you showed this, that improvements, and now they're going to wait for you to do well at the Olympics. But now that the Olympics is in a whole nother year, they have to kind of fight with their contracts, fight with the people that are housing them to kind of get that financial stability back. So for me, it's a little bit different just because I still do work on the side as trained, but my other friends that I have, I know that it's a little bit different for them because they have to kind of do it every year, every 3 years, or wherever their package is for their financial training.
Mariah, let me ask you, without getting into detail, obviously the Olympics appear for the most part to be geared towards younger athletes. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So you have a shelf life, and as any professional athlete has, but without getting into details, what about a personal life? Is that something that you are kind of told to, that is for later, maybe you get into it a little bit? How do you mix in a personal life, like a relationship or so forth, when you're training for this? And does that go on hiatus at certain times as well?
So let me think about how this one would be. So with the Olympics, the hardest part I feel like, especially with relationship wise, would be a person understanding that you have a lot of time commitments. So you're thinking about, you have to be at practices, you have to be at lifts. For us track and field athletes, meets take up pretty much every Saturday or Sunday from January all the way, depending on the Olympic year, to maybe August. So you're not really getting to see people as much. You're not really getting to hang out as much. You're tired a lot. For people like me that work part-time, that's adding that extra tiredness to you. So I think that a lot of the times, most of the people that I know, their relationships aren't really, what would I say? Kind of, I don't want to say professional or not professional, but they're not really fully committed. So they are with somebody, but they're not really with somebody.
And along those lines, do you think it has to be someone who's an athlete too, or can it be someone who has no idea really what you do?
For myself, I've dated a lot of people that have been athletic. They're not athletes now, but in their life, they've had some kind of athleticness in them. And I feel like you have to have somebody that at least understands that realm. I don't know if they can't. I don't know. I've never really dated somebody that's been outside of it, but there has to be that person that understands that you're going to be tired a lot. You're going to be annoyed sometimes. You're going to be aching. You have a lot of things that go into just being an athlete itself, especially somebody going into being a pro athlete. I think you can date somebody that's outside of the realm, but they have to be extremely understanding. Like, even I think about those football players that are dating women who have not been athletic at all. And I just think that they really must understand, because I know they travel all the time and you're probably not seeing them plenty of times. Like for me, our traveling, it depends. Sometimes they're local, sometimes they're farther apart. So you can date any number of people. They just have to be an understanding person. More preferably somebody that understands, obviously, the sport that you're in, but give or take a bit.
I want to know one thing about you. One thing that's always crossed my mind when I watch the Olympics. Do you always watch where the javelin thrower is at all times? Because that thing gets me so nervous just to watch that guy throw it. Do you know where they are? Have you ever seen one coming towards you like?
That is hilarious. But with that one, they make sure that they put the javelin on the other side of where we're at. But I do say, though, that sometimes I have heard some crazy things where somebody has gotten speared by a javelin.
See what I tell you.
That's what I'm saying. It's not so much actually the shot put. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the shot put. Those are usually close to where we're at. So the field, the jump pit is here, and usually the shot put is kind of on the other side. So I've seen it at times where somebody's thrown it, and because they're pro athletes, it goes far. And might not be watching, and all of a sudden they're like, "Watch out!" You're like, "Oh crap!"
Wow.
Not the javelin so much, but I definitely have seen it where they have the shot put.
Well, take it from me. You watch out for the javelin, you hear?
Yeah, for sure. Not trying to get speared. 30.
Oh, that's too funny.
Fun. Lots of fun.
So you said that you're working. You're currently working. What are you doing for work right now?
So I am a group fitness instructor and a personal trainer at Blackburn Training Center in Wall, New Jersey.
Okay. Very nice.
And I do part-time coaching for jump stuff too sometimes. Once in a while.
That's great. They're very lucky to have you.
Yeah, it is fun. It's awesome.
For sure.
Absolutely love it.
So, Mariah, let me ask you this much. When you're done with your Olympic career, do you see yourself going into a career in sports, or is there another sport you want to play or you do play? For example, basketball, volleyball, anything else you want to get into, you think, I may parlay this?
That would be cool. But for now, for me, my big focus is on doing something that's related to track. So my big goal after this is to kind of go for a registered dietitian. And the reason why I want to do that is to kind of help younger athletes to learn that their bodies need a specific type of nutrition as well, too. Because I know when I was younger, I was just eating McDonald's and chicken nuggets forever. On that fuel. But I feel like if I'm able to do that later on, and I can kind of show athletes that, nutritional food is just as fun. And it may not be good all the time, but you'll see some results by doing something that'll help you a little bit better. So that's kind of the realm that I'm going for. Maybe not just track and field athletes, but just athletes in general. So, we'll see after that, after the Olympics.
Listen, that sounds terrific.
On
Definitely.
TV.
Let me ask you a question. If you looked at Duke, Amy, and I, and you had to guess which one of us would be the best long jumper, who are you going to say? And you better answer right.
I don't know. I might have to go with the girl power and go with Amy.
The girl power. Duke, response?
Yeah. Right here, right.
Plus, I know Amy personally, and she is strong as ever. So strong is a big part of being a long jumper. I don't know about you guys.
Hey, listen, I can get up on a pole vault and come down as far, just like a lead balloon. So don't worry about it.
Mariah, this was so much fun having you on. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you guys so much.
Really a pleasure. And I hope that everything that you've said, the advice that you've given, the discussion really helps to kind of affect other people who are looking to go the same route as you. And they realize that nothing will stop them as long as they have that self-motivation, that self-drive. Mm-hmm. Really. So thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, last thing I wanted to say is that, although you have the self-drive and the self-motivation, for me, the big part of becoming what I've been has been the people around me. So it's like my parents, family and friends, my gym, my support group, my coaches. Without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So it's a little bit of both. So, and thanks to you guys for kind of letting me be able to talk about this on your platform.
Well, I'll tell you what, when you have the gold, you come back, all right?
Of course.
That's right.
Oh, good. Holding
Awesome.
it out
There you go. There you go. And just remember, watch out for the pole vault. No, not the javelin. Watch out for them, okay?
That's scary stuff.
And if you get hurt, you know who to call too, all right?
like, of course.
Hey, he's a lawyer.
That's why I said don't hold it against me. I know you don't like me now, but it's all right. I like you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mariah.
Thank you, Mariah.
so much.
So guys, listen, Amy, you know something? You set the bar, no pun intended, you set the bar so high with Mariah, and I didn't really know what to expect. I knew she was going to be a great athlete, but I didn't think that she was going to come with a great personality, be very conversant, just an impressive young lady. She's a 10. I give her a 10. I was really impressed with this young lady.
Yeah, she's extremely, extremely charming, very pretty, very talented, very gifted human being, She has a lot to offer, and I know you wish you were 20 years younger. Sorry, just happens,
Who's counting? So Aim, I want to ask you, because you know Mariah personally. I get the sense that Mariah strikes me as the kind of person who's a good example. In different sports, you've seen certain personalities, they go right to the booth and they fit right in. They have a second career sometimes that's almost as big as their first one. I could see that with Mariah. What can you see her doing when her Olympic career is over with?
So she is extremely motivating to other people. I see her continuing to help others. I don't see her doing anything that is just individual. I think that she will always put herself out there to, whether it's in training or any kind of nutritional guidance, as she just discussed with us. That's where I see her going. She may eventually be some sort of a world-renowned nutritionist / fitness trainer, because that's the kind of personality that she is. She's one of those people who doesn't stop. She just keeps going and going until she gets what she wants.
Duke,
she would be a great speaker, motivational speaker.
She would, but I could see her in media, sports media. I could see her there.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
So, Duke, what you and I have, at least I'm speaking for myself, I don't really know too much about the Olympics and don't really even watch it that much. But what did you take out of our talk with Mariah that you learned about her?
I loved how she really took the psychology of it to heart, that it was an equal part of her training. It wasn't just something peripheral. It was very much an integral part of her training. And to me, that was really impressive, because as you pointed out in the questioning, there are athletes who are incredible in their physical prowess, but without that other aspect, they can't hold a candle to someone who has that mental advantage,
I agree.
And Amy, it's really true. When you are around professional athletes, you will see differences, even on the same team, if you will. You could tell, okay, this one is the leader. Not that there's leaders and followers, but you could see a hierarchy. And when you talk to, sometimes when I found out, Duke, when you contrasted who made the majors and who made the minors, or who stayed in the minors, I should say, sometimes I was very surprised how small or how slim the margin really was. Amy?
Oh, I definitely agree with you 100%. Hey, have either of you ever seen The Death Crawl?
No. What is that?
Okay, it's a little segment in a movie. Actually cannot remember the name of it, but we will credit it after, where it's all psychological. It's a guy on a football field, and he is told by his coach that he's got to keep on going. He's blindfolded, and he's doing the crawl on his hands and knees.
I saw that, and he thinks he can only get to the 50-yard line, and he's in the end zone when he takes the blind.
That's exactly right.
I saw that.
It's all up here. It's all psychological. If you convince yourself that you can't do something, you won't do it. If you can convince yourself that you can, you will always make it to the end. And that is the way that Mariah lives her life.
I want to share something with you guys that's interesting because I found the conversation with her fascinating. Years ago, when I used to live in Chicago, one of my friends was into bodybuilding. He was a hardcore bodybuilder. And I remember I had gone with him to a competition and I met Arnold Schwarzenegger back when he was competing. Cool. Now, I didn't talk to him. I just met him for a fleeting second. But you could tell when you met him, because I'd read up so much about him because, like I said, my friend was a real bodybuilder. I had read up so much about him that his mental makeup, the steel trap upstairs was incredible. And I remember he had a great quote where he said, he was not a power lifter per se, but he said, I could walk into a room, and he was notorious for this. He said, I could look at all the competitors and tell you who's going to win. Because he said, when they looked at the barbell, if they couldn't lift in their mind, it doesn't matter what your muscles are, what your makeup is. Yep. They'll never do it when you're at that level. And I always took it that way. And as I mentioned in the interview with Mariah, I thought that was just fascinating. What that player told me was, he said, you have to be able to shut your mind off. The Duke, for us as drummers, if we're dropping our sticks out of time and just screwing up, you got to be able to come back tomorrow like it never happened. And that's hard.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely is.
And you got to believe it's over with. It didn't happen. Right. It's behind me.
Yes. You have to believe. No matter what, you have to believe. And that is the way that Mariah lives her life. In everything that she does. You know, she's living up here in New Jersey, and she has no family around. She's doing it all on her own.
I'll be right back. I got to keep going. I'll be right back. I got to get something.
Okay.
Do you think he's going to get a javelin?
Oh, I hope not, because he might throw it through the screen.
Well, he's not going to hit me, that's for sure. No, but she was an impressive young lady. There's really nothing I can say bad about her. And I would be her biggest fan. I will watch the Olympics just to see how she does.
Absolutely, 100%.
The only thing is I hope they get them in next year. I don't know. We'll see.
I hope so as well. But again, things happen for a reason, and this gives all of those athletes the opportunity to continue with their training and to get better and better each day. So,
well, Aim, the other thing too is Duke rejoins us here. Duke, you're okay there?
Everything is cool. I just wanted to get this book. I keep this book next to me. I've had it for 15 years.
Duke, for the viewers, can you bring it up a little closer to the screen? There you go. The Magic of Believing, okay? Duke,
very nice.
Who wrote that?
This is written by Claude Bristol. The Science of Setting Your Goal, Then Reaching It. And the basis of the book is exactly what you just talked about.
Beautiful.
If you believe it truly to your core, you will achieve it.
Well, it's amazing how many athletes I've talked to who have said, I will actually play the game in my mind before I get on the field. Now, of course, you don't know how the other teams will react, but Duke, you're a big Seahawks fan.
That's Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson will imagine
mm-hmm.
I'm making that throw in his head. So in theory, his physiology, the body now is following where the mind already told him, and he's already believed he could do it. Mm-hmm. And I think, Aim, that's the one thing I learned that when you watch on TV. Like if you watch Derek Jeter, for example, who was notorious with the media for not giving you any kind of soundbite, but there were some truths that seemed like cliches in what he would talk about. And if you listen, it's over and over and over one word that permeates all the interviews: confidence.
That's right.
Yep.
It's confidence.
It's 100% confidence. In fact, I remember when Mariah was training for the Miss New Jersey pageant, that was the key word that I would give her is confidence. As long as you get on that stage with confidence, then the judges see you and you hold your chin way up high and you walk with confidence, trust me, you will make it to at least the top 20. And she did.
Well, the other thing, Duke, I thought was fascinating was I was expecting this young lady to tell us, for example, just using hockey by way of analogy, I've been skating since I was 2. When she said she didn't really start till she was 18, I was like, wait a minute, that's not even a decade. She doesn't even have a decade in the books. And
right.
Look where she is, which indicates gifted talent, tremendous drive, efficiency, and direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Duke, for an athlete, and again, as a Russell Wilson fan, it doesn't get any better than that.
Right. No.
You are so right about that.
She's an impressive girl. That's what I have to say.
We always say that about Amy too. You don't say it about me, but
Okay. Ken, you're an impressive girl.
listen, I appreciate that. So listen, guys, thanks again for listening to the Upbeat Hang. On behalf of Duke, Amy, and I, we had a great time talking to Mariah today. Duke, we always appreciate the support, and Amy, we appreciate the listenership.
Absolutely.
We want you guys to keep listening, comment, like our stuff, share our stuff, post it, give us some suggestions, things you'd like to hear, things you guests you'd like to see, anything, and we'll try and deliver the best entertainment value we can to you. As always, check out our website or social media. Please reach out to us. You know where to find us. We're all on social media as a group and individually. We'd love to, hopefully, when COVID-19 decides to leave, we'd love to see you guys around. And Duke, we have some great shows coming up too, right?
Oh, yeah, we have a lot of great things on the docket, including the results of our long jump.
That's
so
right.
Stay tuned.
That's right.
Amy, do I have to wear a mask when I do the long jump, or do I not?
Well, listen, we have to abide. We have to. Mask it up. Mask it on.
And folks, also in this unusual time, Duke, Amy, and I want to send out our standing ovation, our applause, and give yourselves a round of applause for all the first responders. And
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for everything you do around the country, in New Jersey, all our friends and colleagues in New Jersey as well. Thank you for everything you're doing and for all the support and supporting the restaurants. And everyone's there for everyone right now. So it's a tough time, but we're going to get through it together. So Duke and Amy, peace. And
Peace.
I will try not to do the long jump, Mariah, head first, right? I don't think I do it head first.
No.
Okay. Well, I got insurance, so I just thought I'd ask.
Good night, Gracie.